Joining me today is frequent guest co-host Ed Freyfogle. Hey, Ed.
Hey Steve, how you doing?
Not bad, not bad. Although I'm not going to lie, it's been going through a little bit of a hard time lately, but we can get into that in a moment. What about yourself?
Similar in some ways, man. I think we're all a bit burned out, man, after the stresses of the last year. There's actually an interesting concept. Have you heard about this period of the year called the hungry time, which
I
is
haven't.
so this is when people used to be mainly farmers and stuff. You of course you plant your stuff in the spring, and then in the autumn you have the harvest, and you store all your food and stuff for the winter. And okay, so now winter has ended, and we've eaten up all the stores, and we're in the last little bits, but the new plants aren't there yet, right? I mean, they're not fully yet. So this is actually, it's a bit deceptive because it's starting to be warm and the sun is shining and whatever, but like the new plants haven't yet arrived and all the old stores are gone, and so it's the hungry time. And I kind of feel like emotionally we're all kind of in the hungry time because we've had such a roller coaster over the last year with the lockdowns and COVID and the political dramas, and happily it does seem, at least in Europe, that the regrowth and rebirth is upon us, and summer is just around the corner, but we're not there yet. So we're kind of suffering as we got to get there. So
That makes me think of a very specific incident that I think is adding to my feeling I've had lately of feeling a bit too stressed for my liking. I wouldn't say I'm on the point of burnout, but I have started to feel a continuous level of stress that I don't like. So I'm taking actions against it. But I'll tell you the one thing in particular that's been triggering it. There's a vaccination station 2 streets from home. And when I go for my daily walk in my neighborhood and I pass by it, I see it there, a place where I could go inside and get vaccinated, but my turn won't be for months. In fact, it's unpublished yet as to when my turn comes. And it just makes me like kind of depressed every time I walk past. I'm happy that vaccinations are happening, but depressed because it's so close, and yet I have no knowledge of when my turn comes.
yeah, but I mean, this week at least the numbers seem to be way up. I mean, it seems like the production, until now we've had the bottleneck on there hasn't been enough vaccine in Europe, and now it's arrived. So things are scaling up quickly, and I think in 1 month the situation is going to look much better. And also, obviously, I mean, of course, everyone should get vaccinated as soon as they can. But if you look at countries that are ahead of us, Israel, say, or the UK or whatever, where life is reopening, they're actually only at like 50% vaccinated. It's not that they're at 100% or anything yet. So I think Israel's at like 60% or so. So even as more and more people get vaccinated, life it benefits everyone, even those that aren't yet vaccinated. So I don't know. I think that will come soon enough. So
Yeah. In fact, you mentioned the UK, et cetera, and America isn't here too. They're so far ahead of us here in Europe for vaccination rates. And that also depresses me. I'm very happy every time somebody posts on Twitter or on social media that they just got their first or second shot. But again, the idea that there's people, my contemporaries, who are there, and it also adds up to this feeling of like uncertainty that I think is just beginning to weigh me down. Yeah, I hear what you're saying about a turn will
you
come.
gotta be careful who you benchmark yourself against, Steve. Switch your. Actually, have you heard of this concept of taking a Twitter holiday, or Twitter traveling? So I don't mean taking a break from Twitter, not doing Twitter, but it means change who you follow on Twitter to like some country,
Okay.
right? So the guy I saw who originally did this, he's an American guy, and 1 week he only followed people in Kenya. And so all of a sudden, it's kind of like he was in Kenya, right? I mean, anyway, my point would be, instead of following people in America, you should follow people in India, and all of a sudden you'll maybe have a different perspective on the virus.
Yeah.
So,
Yeah.
and I think that's the case in all situations. You gotta be careful who you benchmark yourself against, because if you only benchmark yourself against, the founders of Google and Elon Musk or whatever, you're just going to be sitting there frustrated that you haven't built your rocket ship to Mars yet. But if you benchmark yourself against maybe everyone else, then maybe you'll feel a bit better.
Yeah. Ideally, I wouldn't benchmark myself against anybody, but I am human. It's really hard not to do that. So I want to make an announcement about the podcast to our loyal listeners. I am going to take a break for a few weeks from this podcast, and that's partly a response to you're shocked, Ed. Come on, I told you in advance. You were part of the decision. I have been feeling more stressed than I'd like, as I mentioned already, and I've decided that I'm the only one who can do something about that. Maybe it's by taking a Twitter holiday to a different country, or maybe it's by doing things under my immediate control. So I decided that one thing I would do is just take a break from the podcast for a few weeks, but I didn't want it to stop altogether. And I reached out to Paldi Giulizzoni from Balsamic. He's been on the podcast, and we have talked in the past about him maybe taking a role with the podcast. So he's going to be the guest host for the next few weeks. I won't be here. I know you will be for one episode, Ed, and I'm quite excited about that. I hope people are quite happy to go along with the change in host for a few weeks.
I enjoyed the episode you did with Paldi a couple weeks ago, and I've seen I know him. We've met at MicroConf a couple times, and I've seen him. He's spoken at MicroConf both years that I was there, and excellent talks. So I have every confidence he'll do a good job. So
yeah, I hope so. The way I could frame it is that this is the end of a season today. This is our last episode in the season we've never mentioned. And next week will be the start of a mini season, and then I'll be back for the next season in a few weeks' time. How's that for a framing?
I like it. Are we? I maybe would take it in a direction where like we introduce a villain or something for the next season, or maybe like a love interest, or this was what I always told Craig, our mutual friend Craig Hewitt, when he was on the Tiny Seed Tales, which was Rob Alling's kind of. It was a more produced kind of podcast, more like like kind of sound effects and stuff. I was always like, guys, you got to introduce some real drama. We need plot twists. We need good versus evil. We need that kind of thing. So maybe some food for thought there for the coming season.
Craig's product is Castos, podcast hosting. So maybe they could have been mentioning Apple Podcast, and whenever that happens, the ominous music starts in the background.
Exactly.
Then Apple Podcasts did this. Yeah. So I don't know who would be our villain. Big VC, maybe it steps in and.
Well, I don't know. We have maybe Paldi launches a featured downvote or something, or
Paldi.
Something, I don't know. I'm just brainstorming here. But anyway, I hope by taking a break you can recharge, and I'm sure Paldi will do a good job. So
yeah, I hope so. Well, I know he will. I know he's been really been very interesting working on this with him as a mini project to see how systematic and enthusiastic he has been going into it. In fact, I'm actually learning some things about it. We've put together some just internal thoughts together, and it's been an interesting exercise. I realize I'm also enjoying working with somebody else on a project, which I don't normally do. Normally I have my freelancers, but I'm kind of like the boss figure, and I'm aware that when I say I prefer it this way, suddenly that's the way it goes. And when I'm working with someone as an equal, then it's a different experience, and I learn more from it.
Yeah, that's definitely true. I mean, I'm fortunate in my business to have a co-founder, and there are definitely times where I'm down and he's up, and vice versa, and it balances out a lot more. So
yeah. What about yourself, Ed? How's things going in your business and life?
Well, as I said, in life, we're all kind of in this kind of waiting period, as you said, to get vaccinated and for things to open back up and to be able to travel and all this kind of thing. A change of scenery would do us all good, I think. In the business, actually, the month started out quite slow. It's now the end of April, so we're about at the start of a new month. The month started out really slow, which I attribute partially to Easter, or I don't know. Maybe just randomness, but actually things have really picked up the last 10 days or so. So that's quite encouraging. And we're now gearing up, working on kind of this new feature, new product. So that's also kind of exciting. What else I've been doing? Spoke at some industry events. I mean, online, virtually. Went on another podcast. I hate to say it, Steve. Been cheating on you. I went on an IoT podcast.
Oh, there's the villain. There's the villain we need.
So,
how did that go? How did that podcast experience go?
Well, it's fun to be the guest on, so I also have my Geo podcast together with someone else, and that's actually going really well. But it's fun to be the guest where you don't have to organize anything, actually.
Yeah.
So yeah, that came out earlier this week, or maybe last week, I think. So let's see. I mean, all those things. You of course hope for some kind of big bang experience, result, but that's rarely the case. I mean, so this is kind of a newer, smaller Internet of Things podcast. So as you can imagine, there's not millions of listeners or anything. So, but it all adds up. So I don't know, but right now it does feel like we're kind of churning. Not. There were no key major milestones, so it's easy to get kind of burned out.
Yeah. I wonder if that's kind of just the nature of the businesses we run. After 4 or 5 years, it's 4 years next month since I launched Feature Upvote, and early on you have milestones. My first customer, my first 10 customers, my first 100 customers, $1,000 MRR, and eventually 10,000. But after a while, like the milestones, they're not really all that significant, or they don't seem as significant. Still like to celebrate them, but you kind of, maybe I'm talking about my own experience more. I kind of feel like I'm just in this very long, slow grind, the path up the mountain, without really being able to see where I'm headed or even knowing what I'm heading for, or how much longer I do this and whatever. I kind of feel in that position. Maybe
I can relate a lot. This was a big problem in my old business as well, and I got really burned out on it. And it's exactly that. It's like, the first customer is exciting. The first employee you hire, very exciting. The first time you launch another country, or let's say another language, or very exciting. The fifth time you do it, the eighth time you do it, it's just not that exciting anymore. And I think as entrepreneurs, the reason you get into entrepreneurship is because you want to kind of create things. You have an idea and you want to turn that idea into reality and see it have some kind of impact on the world, for the people who use it or whatever. And when the business kind of, moves into a more of a maintenance mode, or where you're not constantly inventing new things, but you're more like grinding along, as you say, you miss it a lot.
Yeah.
So,
yeah.
But in some ways, this is also what our customers value a lot. I mean, like particularly in the case of my business, what the customers value is that our service just kind of runs, that they don't have to maintain it. And that's kind of how we pitch it. Is like, of course you could. We use various open source tools or whatever, and those are publicly available. And a lot of times customers are like, well, I could just set this up myself. I'm like, absolutely, you could, but you're not going to maintain it. You're going to get burned out, or, the guy in your team who's the expert on it, he's going to leave the business or whatever. So what you're really paying us for is to maintain it and keep it running for you. And that resonates with customers, but that then also means we have to do the work of maintaining it.
Yeah.
So, it's a challenge. It's a challenge of how to keep yourself excited and motivated and knowing when to take a break, as you say, and when also to do new side projects that help reignite the spark, whether that is a new feature or maybe a new business or a project like the podcast or whatever. Finding ways to keep yourself excited. And I have to say, for me, one of those ways was also, it used to be like going to events and things like that, or And so obviously that's lacking now.
Yeah.
So, but hopefully we'll get it back. I mean, the way things are looking right now, I think by autumn it'll be possible to, MicroConf Europe, I think we talked about last time, is coming up in October. It'll be possible to go travel around a bit more,
Yeah.
So
I'm definitely missing that. And I think that's what's adding up to my feeling of stress, or is that I'm sick of not being able to travel. I'm sick of not being able to see my family. I'm sick of not even being able to just go hiking for a few days. This is something I love doing. It's just telling my team that for the next week I'm barely available. I'll check my emails once a day and that's it. And then just go walking. A couple of years ago, just before my daughter was born, I took some time to try and walk along the length of the Thames. I didn't make it. I did a few days, then I had to go back home because I had a pregnant girlfriend. Felt
right.
a bit unfair. But this is the type of thing I'm itching to do again, and I can't do it, and I don't know when I can do it. And I
Yeah,
know it's just about waiting, but this real uncertainty and feeling I've never really, it's been a long time since I've taken a break. I'm
sure.
feeling. Yeah.
Well, and this is one of the problems also with having kids is
Yeah.
there's no break. As someone told me when my son, my oldest child was born, um, don't worry, only the first 18 years are hard. So
uh,
I mean, obviously you can still go on vacation, of course, and I do a lot of fun things with my kids or whatever, but
yeah.
it's much harder to organize that experience of kind of a true break just for you, or where you can really go recharge your batteries,
Yeah. Or if we go
And
to visit Italy for our family, for my partner's family, that will be a break because, we need to get there, we need to interact with people, and that will force me to kind of not do much for the business for a while. And without that forcing stuff, I find that all I do every day is just think and think and think about the business. And I
yeah,
don't think that's too healthy.
it's true. It's true. It's easy to way over obsess about it. So but it's hard to turn that off, really.
Yeah,
So
yeah. So they say, those of us who claim we only work 5-hour days or 4-day weeks or whatever, the truth is, if you're the founder, even when you're not working, you're probably thinking about your business every second thought. You
yeah,
wake up and you want to see, if that email you sent the previous day about a enterprise plan got answered, or when you're brushing your teeth at night, you might be thinking about, what you're going to do the next morning in your business. It's never really off.
it's true. It's a big challenge. That being said, that's not necessarily unique to being a founder. My wife struggles with this quite a lot as well. She's very passionate about her work. And then, like, some mornings she'll wake up and she'll be like, "Oh, I couldn't sleep at all. I was thinking about this or that or whatever." And it's like, well, don't do that,
Yeah, yeah,
But easy advice to give, hard advice to
yeah.
follow. So
Yeah, especially those of us who are more driven or motivated. It's probably just part of our personality. That's why we do what we do, because we have this inability to turn off those thoughts.
what 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 are you going to do with all this free time if you're not doing the podcast?
Free time. I wish. I just do other business stuff to some degree, but of course, it sounds like I'm not really addressing the root of the problem. But it's just one less thing that I have to worry about. Doing a podcast sounds easy to someone who doesn't do it. Well, you just turn on the microphone and talk for half an hour at a time. And maybe when it's us doing our episodes together, it's a little bit like that. But when you're interviewing people, you need to find the person, you need to research, you need to
Yeah.
schedule. And then after it's recorded, you need to do all the stuff. Okay, I have an editor who helps, but I still need to do the QA and the uploading and the promotion and so on. Like it's work. And
It's a series of tasks you have to run through. Yeah.
yeah,
I-
especially the idea that I know I'm doing an interview this week. I need to find time to listen to a couple of other podcasts that person might have been on, or listen to a recorded talk, or read up on them and come up with some questions that are actually meaningful and interesting. And this kind of plays on my brain a bit. So
yeah,
yeah,
if it's a person you don't know or don't know well, it takes time to prepare. That's certainly true.
Yeah.
So,
So that will just, it's not that I'm going to have free time, but just one less thing to have to worry about for a few weeks. And yeah, maybe I'll come up with a better plan for attacking that in the future.
all right. How's business otherwise? Give us the update there.
Going
Are
well,
features getting upvoted or downvoted, or are they...
yeah, features are getting upvoted. A couple of new, really passionate users, customers, I should say, those who became customers a couple of months ago, and they're writing every week with questions and ideas. And these customers are great to have, but I do sometimes feel like all I'm doing is writing kind of dismissive emails like, thanks for your suggestion, it's really good, we'll do that in the future, we have no timeline yet. And yet I like that people are so passionate about what we're doing.
Yeah, that's a double-edged sword, right? I mean, of course, you want
Yeah.
people to be passionate and excited, and hopefully they also come with good suggestions. But it can't be every single day. At some
Yeah.
point, you
And
get...
sometimes I just want to write, like, look, you know what our product is, right? You know that we are about offering a way to manage feedback. So although you've written to me, you could just put it on our feedback board or find the same suggestion and vote it up. Like,
Wait,
this
so
is
do
the whole
you? Is
basis.
there? I mean, obviously, I assume there must be, but there is a feature upvote board for feature upvote. Is that
But
correct?
of
Okay.
course. And if you go and look in the database, it has ID 1.
Well,
It
there
was
you
the
go.
very first one we created.
And is it active? Are people? I mean, do people submit the ideas there? And
They do. Yeah, they do vote it up. We do have a problem that our customers will start encountering now the years have passed. So it's been 4 years we've had our own board. In fact, we started it even before we went live,
yeah,
like publicly live, when we had beta testers were already using it. And we're now getting to the point where there's some things that have been up there, some suggestions have been up there for years. And it kind of creates this impression that we're
nothing's
not doing
happening.
enough stuff. Yeah. So, and of course, we work on the product every year, but some things just will never get done. It's just the nature of a backlog. So we're encountering a
Yeah,
problem ourselves that we need to deal with. How do we present
we
to
have
the...
that same issue. So internally, we use a Trello board for kind of our ideas, and we have different columns. Like urgent or like depending on the category of the issue. And then we have one column that's called like nice to have / never. And every
Yeah,
so often I
yeah.
just like slide everything over there into if things have been sitting around for a long time or whatever. I think that's kind of a psychological thing because some people, when the task is sitting there and nothing's happening on it, the pressure builds and builds. I don't care, man. I can stare at it forever. It's not gonna work. So, but
That's your superpower.
it's true. It's true. But yeah, I mean, maybe sometimes you just gotta you spend an hour or whatever and do a cleanup and just say, you know what, we've decided this product doesn't make this feature doesn't make sense or whatever.
Yeah, marketers won't do. But then we also need to create a way to hide or to make those ones less visible, because it's not very nice if someone comes to a feature request board, and then the top 5 things all have lots of votes and they're all marked as won't do if you
Right.
order
Sure.
by votes. So that's a problem to solve. And I've actually noticed that our big granddaddy of a competitor, User Voice, they have the same problem.
Sure.
And they
Sure.
get people making the smart aleck comments. Is this product even alive? This has been requested for 7 years and you've done nothing. And of course, you've done lots of things in that time. You just haven't addressed that particular issue that particular person wants.
Well,
Yeah. You see it like, I'm a Java developer, and the Java issue board, there's things that have been in there for 15 years and they're never going to get done.
right.
But of course, if something hasn't been done in 15 years, it's not going to get done.
I had a slight tangent here, but I had many years ago when I worked at Yahoo. At one point a new guy came and he was the head of the engineering team, and he had worked at Sky, the TV operator in the UK. He was based in London. Anyway, then he left the company, and so he worked there kind of in the mid 90s, let's say 90. I don't know exactly which year, but let's say like 97 or so. And he left the company, and I kind of stayed in touch with him. he had a very funny story because then eventually he ended up rejoining Sky in like 2008 or something. And, they did the email addresses by first name dot last name at sky.com or whatever it was. So day one, he goes back in and he sets up his email and he downloads it gives him all these emails that people had still sent to him after he had left previously. Like the email inbox was still there. So he starts replying to some of the emails from like 97, being like, sorry, just catching up on my email now. I don't think we're going to take this one forward. So literally he's replying to 12-year-old emails.
To people who might not even be in the company.
Anyway.
Hey,
Wait. So you had some news you wanted to share about the team, right? You hired your Java developer.
Yeah, and first I want to thank you for your help, Ed, because you wrote a very helpful blog post. You get asked so many times about recruiting developers based on your experience, I think, in your past business. That was a very helpful blog post. And I followed some advice there, and I managed to find a developer who fits in very well. I was very careful to choose not just for raw technical skill, but also ability to communicate, and somebody who just felt like he had the attitude that would work in well with our remote only low stress team. So he started this week, and it's gone smashingly well.
Fantastic.
This was actually a part of my stress too. I think I'm very, very I had tight ownership mentally of my code base, and now I was opening up my Java code to somebody else, and that meant I was going to make myself open to criticism, either expressed verbally or just in his thoughts, and that was weighing me down. But we did this together, and it went so well, and I feel much more relieved about that. On the day he started, we went through a little onboarding process I'd created where I just make him check our privacy policy, acknowledge that he read it, and some other things like that. Introduced them to the team, created the accounts, told them how we do things, a little bit like dictatorial, but I think you have to be. And then we worked on getting something from the backlog done, something that's been in Jira for almost 2 years.
Yeah.
And we got it done in the day. The day he started, we got it done.
There you
no
go.
problems,
A bug from
no
2
issues.
years ago getting done. Come on.
Yeah, it was really great. And I realized, like, well, if it was that easy, I probably could have done this myself like long ago. Don't know why I didn't do it already. But, well, I do know, because I have too many other things on, because you also need to spend the time understanding the issue. But not only did he get feature upvote set up on his own computer, just in a couple of hours, he had a full development environment ready to work and to commit to Git. But he even went one step further and put it into Docker, something I've never been brave enough to experiment with. But he proved that you can get feature upvote quite easily running within Docker, isolated from anything else on his computer.
Right.
So I kind of like that he went that step further to not just do what I said to the letter, but also make something that works even better.
That's fantastic. And so what now? He's just going to start churning through the list of old bugs and stuff, or?
Yeah, I've assigned a few things to him. I've given him some freedom to choose which one to do in what order. After all, things have been in Jira for 2 years. They're clearly it's a little bit unrealistic if I say this one's high priority. You got to do this one first.
Yeah.
So this gives him the chance to pick ones that he feels more comfortable with as he gets to learn more of the code base.
And he's a full-time employee or part-time?
No, part-time at the moment. Yep.
Okay.
It works in well with our budget and also with the way I run the business.
That's great, man. That's great. So
very, very happy about that. It was it's like a milestone. You mentioned earlier today how it's one of those milestones in your business as the first employee. Well, I've had employees or freelancers working with me, but this is the first one as a pure Java developer, Java/MySQL developer. And yeah, I think that will really help get some things done that haven't been getting done at the speed I'd like them to get done.
And wait, until now, you have been the only developer, or what?
So I've had somebody helping with HTML, CSS, JavaScript.
Yeah.
But the Java, so the backend and the database and things like Redis and all that, that's all been me.
Wow.
And I've been trying
Okay.
to balance that with the other things. And I think that's been a cause of stress too, feeling like I'm not getting these things done at the pace I was able to in the past. Partly
Well,
because
that's
these other
also
things.
a big step architecturally, or from a
Yeah.
technical standpoint. So, do you
Yeah.
have a lot of tests and stuff? I mean, are you?
Sorry, what was that word? Well, I have a
But
lot
I
of
mean,
what?
how are you confident that you and he are confident that as he changes things, you're not going to
Yeah.
accidentally introduce bugs and stuff? Or
So one of the questions I liked when we did our interview is he asked me about the tests we have. I thought, okay, I'm glad that he actually addresses that. I had to admit that we have very few. Look, it's something about Java as being a strictly typed language. Things just don't compile often if they're wrong, as opposed to something like Ruby on Rails or Python. And
yeah, but I mean
for
more like so yeah, you might not have syntax errors or things like
yeah,
that, but you can just have
yeah,
logical errors.
yeah.
That
Well, for a CRUD, which is what Feature Upvote is, it's a CRUD app. A lot of the testing that you'll see in some other apps are unnecessary, and the things that really can get tested, we do test. It's not many tests, but they're there.
okay.
Uh, yeah. So what we do for quality is lots of small, frequent deploys. We have Sentry there to catch any crashes if they happen. Um, and it's not enough. And I would like one day to do something more about QA, but it's worked well for us now. Just a way to fix bugs and deploy them very quickly, and to use some sort of monitoring for exceptions or crashes, and just a smattering of tests on the things that make sense for a Java CRUD app.
Okay, cool, man. Anyway, yeah, that is a nice milestone. Good for you.
Uh, what more can I say about it? Or would I like to? Can I say about it? Um, the first Jira issue I gave him to do kind of touched on everything. We had to add a field to the database, which meant he had to learn how we do our migration scripts. It required to add something to the dashboard, or to the web apps, the bit you get when you're logged in, and it
Yeah.
also involved something on the front end, and it involved a deploy. So I think we got through all the major bits, and he was exposed to our architecture and the different bits we use. But now he can then build up a stronger knowledge of like our integrations and so on.
No, good. Good stuff, dude.
And yeah, we'll see how that goes.
Well, that should reduce a lot of stress then, I would guess. I mean, in a couple of months' time, once he's familiar with all the pieces or whatever, you can slowly like just delete your account and it's his problem. There you go.
Yeah, without telling people, just go on holiday and
Exactly.
just forward all my emails to him or to other people. So yeah, that's it's been a long process. Mentally, I more than a year ago, I knew I wanted to get somebody to come and help, but I had to be ready mentally, and this whole COVID situation was a spanner in the works. Uh, revenue didn't grow as fast last year as I had predicted, and I also didn't want to create any financial pressures in doing this. So, but finally, we were there, and yeah,
But yeah, understandable to be a little conservative last year, I guess, given all the
yeah,
uncertainty. So,
yeah, yeah. And then now I think we're just having to learn to live with uncertainty. I mean, life is uncertain.
well, I also think, everyone's so stressed out, as we said at the beginning. But I think now, as the days get longer, and I mean, the economy is coming roaring back, at least from what we can see in the countries that are already a bit ahead, and I assume that will be the same elsewhere as well. So, I think the rest of 2021 could be quite good. So
Here's hoping. Here's hoping.
here's hoping. At the very least, we'll have a few interesting podcast episodes from Peldy. So
Yeah. Okay. So let's wrap it up then. Ed, any parting words to keep people
no,
going for
looking
the next
looking
few
forward
weeks?
to the change of pace with Peldy's episodes. So let's see what he's got.
Okay. Well, then that's it. Bye, Ed.
Take it easy, man. Bye.
See you. Bye, everybody.